When someone says ancient Scandinavia, what comes to mind? Well, Vikings, of course, but you know what? Their era is just one chapter in a long, mysterious, and incredibly interesting book. So today, in order to see who lived in these lands before the Vikings and how the world from which they emerged actually came to be, let's turn this book back to the very beginning. Hello everyone, you're on the What Was That channel, and today we will travel 13,000 years into the past to explore the history of Scandinavia before our era. The settlement of the Scandinavian peninsula became possible only after climatic changes at the end of the Pleistocene forced the ice sheet to retreat. Around 13,000 BCE, the first areas of land, modern-day Denmark, the southern Swedish province of Scania, and parts of the Norwegian coast, became free of ice. This created a harsh but habitable tundra landscape similar to the modern Arctic environment. The flora was sparse, consisting mainly of dwarf Arctic birch and rowan, but it was sufficient to support large herds of reindeer that migrated north, following the edge of the glacier. It was these herds that became the main resource and magnet for the first humans who dared to enter this new world. But right away there's a catch. While it was previously thought that the settlement of Scandinavia was a linear process in which hunters from the south gradually moved north, recent research combining archaeology and ancient DNA analysis radically changes this picture. Thus, according to a study with the romantic title, The Population Genomics of Mesolithic Scandinavia, investigating early post-glacial migration routes and high-latitude adaptation, the first group associated with the Paleolithic Arnsberg culture moved from the south. These tribes of hunter-gatherers, originating from the North European plain, followed the seasonal migrations of reindeer, penetrating the territory of Denmark and southern Sweden. But a second, no less important group came from the northeast. Representatives of this group, genetically linked to the population of the Upper Volga region, moved south along the ice-free Atlantic coast of Norway. Analysis of genomes extracted from the remains of Mesolithic people, found in places like the Stora Forvar cave on the island of Stora Karlsö and Gumarabakken Hummervik Holmen, provided irrefutable evidence of this dual settlement. The genetic profiles clearly split into two groups: Western hunter-gatherers who came from the south and Eastern hunter-gatherers from the northeast. These two populations met and mixed on the Scandinavian peninsula, creating a unique population of Scandinavian hunter-gatherers that was genetically more diverse than contemporary populations in Central and Western Europe. This initial melting pot could have become the basis for the cultural flexibility and innovation that would characterize the region's subsequent history. During the Mesolithic era, that is, around 9500 BCE, the climate of Scandinavia again undergoes radical changes. The warming led to the melting of the remaining glaciers, and dense forests began to grow in place of the tundra. This forced the reindeer and the hunters who depended on them to retreat further north. In their place, new ecosystems formed in southern Scandinavia, which gave impetus to the development of new cultures adapted to life in the forests and on the coast. And the first major culture of the Mesolithic was the Maglemosian culture, named after a site in a large swamp in Denmark. Its bearers were masters of adaptation to the forest and swamp landscapes that stretched from England, which was then still connected to the continent by a land bridge known as Doggerland, all the way to Poland. Thanks to the unique preservation conditions in peat bogs, not only stone, but also numerous organic artifacts have survived, giving a vivid picture of their lives. Thanks to this, we can assert that the technological arsenal of the Maglemosian people was extremely diverse. They made complex tools from flint, bone, and wood. A characteristic feature was microliths, miniature sharp flint blades that were inserted into wooden or bone hafts to create arrowheads, spear points, and blades for knives. For fishing, they used bone hooks and barbed harpoons. During the 6th millennium BC, community. However, around 4000 BCE, a sharp and fundamental change occurred in southern Scandinavia. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle of the Ertabil culture gave way to a new agrarian society known as the funnel beaker culture. This transformation was so rapid that most researchers associate it with the migration of new population groups from Central Europe rather than a gradual transition to agriculture by the local inhabitants. The bearers of the funnel beaker culture brought with them the entire Neolithic package: cultivation of cereals, breeding of domestic animals, and new technologies such as the wheel and the plow. Analysis of stable isotopes in human remains from that time shows an almost complete abandonment of marine food in favor of terrestrial products, which indicates a radical change in diet and economy. Settlements became more permanent, located on fertile soils suitable for further agricultural cultivation. The most impressive and lasting legacy of the funnel beaker culture is its monumental architecture. Starting from approximately 3500 BCE, these communities began to erect thousands of megalithic tombs, structures made of huge stone blocks. They ranged from simple dolmens to complex passage graves, which were used for collective burials over many generations. The construction of such structures required significant collective effort, coordination of labor, and a developed social organization. These megaliths were not just burial places. They served as centers of ritual life, symbolized a connection with ancestors, and marked the territorial claims of certain clans or communities. That is, they are the material embodiment of a new sedentary ideology, closely tied to the land and ancestral memory. But it should be added that the spread of agriculture was not uniform. While the funnel beaker culture dominated the fertile lands of the south, communities of hunter-gatherers, particularly the pitted ware culture, continued to exist on the islands. They maintained their marine economy, hunting seals and fishing, but at the same time actively contacted and traded with farmers. This period is characterized by the coexistence and interaction of two different ways of life, which created a complex cultural mosaic. And the next major transformation that would forever change life in Scandinavia would occur in the 3rd millennium BCE. Around the 2800s BCE, representatives of the battle axe culture, which was a local variant of the pan-European corded ware individual, especially the male warrior, his status, lineage, and personal achievements. And this contrasts sharply with the collectivist traditions of Neolithic farmers, where the individual was dissolved in the community. Little is known about the settlements of this culture. monumental megalithic tombs. In general, the appearance of the corded ware culture in Scandinavia almost coincides in time with the decline and disappearance of the funnel beaker culture, the region's first farmers. Genetic studies paint a picture of rapid and drastic demographic change. Genome analysis shows an almost complete replacement of the male Y chromosome lineages characteristic of the funnel beaker culture, with new R1A lineages brought by the bearers of the corded ware culture. This suggests that the process was not a peaceful cultural exchange, but rather a rapid transformation, which some researchers describe as a violent clash of cultures. The reason for this clash, in my opinion, lies in economic competition. Both the representatives of the corded ware culture and the funnel beaker culture laid claim to the same resource: fertile lands suitable for farming and grazing. In this competition, the more mobile, warlike, and perhaps better organized social structure of the corded ware people proved to be dominant, which led to the displacement and assimilation of the funnel beaker farmers. A completely different picture was observed in relations with the pitted ware culture, whose bearers were descendants of the indigenous Mesolithic population of Scandinavia, maritime hunters and fishermen who occupied mainly coastal areas, while the newcomers from the steppes settled the inland areas suitable for pastoralism. Farmers from Anatolia led to the displacement of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. The second, around 2800 BCE, is associated with the arrival of the bearers of the corded ware culture, who, in turn, changed the gene pool established by the first farmers. Friends, thank you for watching this video.